Burned alive, then haunted, the Rebecca Cornell story. In the winter of 1673, in the colony of Rhode Island, a woman named Rebecca Cornell was found burned to death in her own home. What began as a terrible fire would become one of the strangest and darkest stories in early New England history. Rebecca was 73 years old and living in Portsmouth with her family. On the evening of February 8, she chose not to join the others for supper because the fish made her sick. It was a small detail, a quiet moment before the night turned tragic. After dinner, one of the boys in the house went to check on her. When he entered her room, he found Rebecca already on fire. By the time anyone could react, it was too late. At first, the death seemed like a horrible accident. In a time when fireplaces, candles, and open flames filled every home, a fatal fire was not impossible. The coroner initially ruled her death accidental, and for a moment, that might have been the end of it. A terrible loss, perhaps, but nothing more than a house fire in a dangerous age. But the story did not stay quiet for long. Rebecca's brother, John Briggs, soon told a far stranger tale. He claimed that Rebecca's ghost appeared to him while he slept and spoke to him from beyond the grave, saying, in effect, that she had been burned with fire. In modern life, such a claim would be dismissed immediately, but in colonial New England, belief and fear lived much closer to the surface. The dead were not always thought to be silent. A ghostly visitation could carry weight, especially in a world where religious fear and moral judgment shaped every part of daily life. Once Briggs gave his statement, the case changed direction. Rebecca's body was exhumed and examined again. This time, investigators noticed an unusual wound on her stomach, and suspicion began to grow that her death had not been a simple accident after all. Another witness said Rebecca had feared she might be harmed before she could move in with another son. The more people talked, the more the story shifted from tragedy to accusation. Attention soon focused on her son, Thomas Cornell. Thomas had been the last family member seen in the picture, and tensions in the household were already said to be high. Some later accounts suggested that Thomas and his wife made chilling remarks after Rebecca's death, comments that only deepened suspicion. Whether every detail was remembered perfectly or not, the effect was the same. The family tragedy was now being read like a murder case. By May of 1673, Thomas Cornell stood trial in Newport. The trial was enormous for its time. It lasted 27 days, and 196 witnesses were examined. In a colonial courtroom, that was a massive proceeding. The case drew in the concerns of an entire community because it was not just about one death. It was about family conflict, fear, religious belief, and whether a person could be convicted based on evidence that would sound impossible today. The prosecution leaned heavily on the ghost story, the exhumation, the body examination, and the statements made by family and neighbors. The defense had to fight not only those claims, but the strange moral atmosphere around the whole case. This was a world where spiritual testimony could still matter, and where public opinion could be shaped as much by fear as by fact. In the end, the jury found Thomas guilty. He was sentenced to death, and on May 23, 1673, he was hanged. The execution did not close the story so much as seal it inside legend. From then on, the death of Rebecca Cornell and the trial of Thomas Cornell became one of the most notorious and unsettling cases in New England history. What makes the story so haunting is that it contains so many layers. There is the fire, the burned body, the ghostly accusation, the re-examined corpse, the long trial, the hanging, and beneath all of that, there is a family home where something went terribly wrong and never stopped echoing. It is the kind of story that feels bigger than a single crime. It is about how fear shapes judgment, how grief becomes suspicion, and how a community decides what to believe when a death is too strange to explain easily. Rebecca Cornell's death and Thomas Cornell's trial remain unforgettable because they remind us that horror does not always arrive as a monster. Sometimes it begins with a quiet supper, a room upstairs, a fire in the dark, and a voice from beyond the grave that changes everything. If you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, and comment below what you thought. Thanks for watching.